another episode by KKCO East Africa LLP. My name is Liz Nderito and I'll be your host today. And with me for this conversation, I am joined by two incredible guests. And karibuni sana, I want to ask you to please introduce yourself and tell us what you do at KKCO. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. My name is CPA Joshua Gachomo. I work with KKCO East Africa LLP in the capacity of audit partner, and I'm in charge of audit and assurance services. Thank you.
Karibu sana, Joshua.
Thank you. My name is CPA Kamau from KKCO East Africa LLP.
Mm-hmm.
I lead and I head the tax team.
All right. Karibu sana, Virginia. It's yet another episode. How are you guys feeling?
Yeah, quite excited to join you today, even as we discuss a number of matters.
Yeah.
Great.
You're getting the hang of it, huh?
Yeah.
You possibly could quit your day jobs, or what do you think?
Sure.
All right. So, I'm going to start by asking a question. If you could only have 5 apps on your phone, just 5 apps, what will they be?
Wow.
At least, of course, what?
The M-Pesa.
The M-Pesa. Yeah, I can't tell.
The M-Pesa app.
The M-Pesa app is a master. If you said on the M-Pesa app, now I think we'll go to all our banking apps.
Yeah. The banking apps.
The
M-Pesa app.
So it's
the Uber app.
And the Uber apps. All right. Now, in this conversation, I want us to talk about eTIMS. And I want us to try and demystify or really just briefly give an explanation of what this monster is. I'm saying that because I could give you my experience. A couple of months ago, I happened to trade with a business, and they told me they needed me to give them an eTIMS invoice or receipt. I don't even know. And I remember it being so difficult. I thought it would be as easy as going to eTIMS and just downloading and, And I realized it is such a complex tool, at least with my experience. Bona Joshua, I want you to please walk us through what eTIMS is.
Yes. If you look at what eTIMS look like, I would say in Kenya, we have advanced in terms of our tax management. And this began a while ago. You notice that for our tax management system, currently, I think if I'm not wrong, in Africa or even in the world, we are the country where we have gone paperless. We are the country that have evolved a system of management of our taxes in an electronic platform. This started from something that we are familiar with, where KRA requires you to now come up with electronic tax invoice management system. This is in addition to what we all know that we file our returns on iTax platform, which is again a platform created by KRA where you could log in, you have an account, every taxpayer has an account. In that account, you're able to file your returns, you're able to view your transactions, you can view what you have, how you have fared in terms of taxes. You can see your ledger, you can see all your transactions. Anybody who have done a tax withholding, for example, on your account, you'll see who did it and when and the PIN of that person. So then we now evolved in a tax manner to a system where currently now we have eTIMS. Now, by definition, we call it Electronic Tax Invoice Management System. Then what that means is that if I am issuing an invoice, and this is for any supplies of goods or services within Kenya, that particular invoice is supposed to be generated through a platform that is now called eTIMS.
Okay.
And so then Kenya Revenue Authority is using this platform to then manage our taxes. All our sales, all the purchases, you remember the way the transactions are is that I buy from you and again you sell to me.
Yeah.
So both of us are involved. So when you sell on eTIMS. When I buy, I then receive an eTIMS generated invoice as a purchaser. And so in that particular platform, then what that means is that if you go to your iTax, which I said is a platform where it's like the account that is opened by the government for the taxpayer, I can see your transactions. KRA can see your transaction. And the same happens to me when I'm making the claims, when I'm filing my returns and saying, oh, why my income is less is because of certain expenses that I incurred. Those expenses that I incurred are automatically checked because they were done through a platform. So anyone, KRA can go to your platform and see, oh, you purchased from so-and-so. So that is how then we are getting to a seamless system of managing our transactions, which are now invoices through electronic tax invoice management systems. Yes.
So it's an invoice management system, a tax invoice management.
Tax invoice management system.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Maybe Virginia, briefly, you could walk us through maybe like the businesses that are required. Is it actually required? Are we required to all be on eTIMS? Like, what does that look like?
Thank you, Liz. To start with, I would say there is no business that is exempted from onboarding eTIMS. And this is brought by the concern of compliance, the level of compliance. If you check back some few years back, there was an issue of things to do with missing traders, where you could find some traders. They are there, they have the pins, but they do not exist. And you find that you get an invoice from such trader, and you go claim that invoice. So to curb that, KRA came around with measures to curb the missing trader issue. And by that, every other person who is in business, as long as you are trading, you have to raise an invoice, electronic tax invoice. And so no one is exempted, but we have some few transactions that are exempted from the eTIMS. So as long as you're in trade and you're invoicing, you have a transaction that needs to be invoiced, you have to issue an eTIMS. Be it a sole proprietor, be it a partnership, be it a corporate, individual, as long as you're in business, you have to comply and issue an eTIMS. Yeah.
So,
and this then means that if you are walking home to your house and you pass through a grocery or a butchery and you bought your meat or your veggies for your consumption, you are not in business. You have gone home. So at that point, you don't need an eTIMS generated invoice because there is nowhere you are going to claim that expense. You are going for your own personal consumption. But if these groceries, these mama bogas you are buying from, you wanted to go and you are going to create an expense that you shall later claim against your income while you are filing your tax returns. Whoever that person is, whether it's a mama boga or a butchery person, whoever it is, or a motorbike guy, who was doing some, LRs, is then required by the law to give you an eTIMS generated invoice for you to claim those expenses. Yeah.
But of course, like you've said, it has to be like for trade. Like I am taking that border ride because it's a work engagement, or what does that mean?
It's a work engagement. It is your organization that is engaging some rider services movement from one place, and it's for business purposes.
Okay.
If you are walking from your house to the stage, to come to work, you will not claim that rider expense to anyone. And so that is then just a consumption. It's just like the way we consume VAT at the consumer level. And so for all the businesses trading, whether they are, just as explained by CPA Virginia, whether they are companies, SMEs, corporates, whether they are churches or NGOs, they are supposed to register with eTIMS. Again, for purposes of enhancing that, in the times when they are issuing an invoice, it is a tax compliant invoice. And where they are also receiving, they are receiving invoices, the onus lies on them for compliance purposes to ensure whoever is supplying to them, even if they are not taxable individuals. For example, we all know that a church income from tithe and offering are not taxable, but the church will be incurring expenses. Expenses. Those providers of those expenses or those services or those goods have an obligation under the law to supply the church with an eTIMS compliant invoice.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, let me ask, how will that impact us, or how is it already impacting us?
The main impact is compliance. We now know from our tax management system, we now bring in more people to the tax bracket. We are now onboarding more taxpayers.
More taxpayers.
We call it broadening. We are now broadening the tax base and having people coming in, those who are not in the tax bracket. Because now with this, they are required to comply. And by compliance, it then means they will have to declare that income because it's already in the system. That border guy will have to declare that income when he is filing. He can't file any return when he had already issued an invoice. It shows that he was trading. And so it's broaden up the tax base. Again, within what we know the government is doing within the medium-term revenue strategy is to broaden the tax base, to have more people on board, onboarded in terms of matters of tax. Yes.
So it looks like the days where we filed nil returns may be over.
Actually, the days of nil returns with eTIMS are numbered.
They are numbered.
They're numbered. The writing is we say it's on the wall.
It's on the wall.
It's on the wall, yeah.
Okay. Now, Virginia, how has the transition for the businesses that you're serving been? Do you feel like it has been like easy for them, difficult? Like, what are the benefits of now engaging your services as KKCO, East Africa LLP, as the advisors and the experts?
Okay. Before we get the transition, we are moving from the older ETR to TIMS, and now we are at eTIMS.
Oh my goodness!
And for the difference of the two is that eTIMS is a software, while the TIMS, the older ETR, they were the hardwares, the gadgets. But this one is a software.
A software.
And so you find the transitioning from the older hardware to software to some is quite complex because it will involve the signing up of the taxpayer to the solution. There are those clients or taxpayer have in place the billing system. Already they have a billing system, and bearing in mind that eTIMS is an invoicing system. They already have a system in place. So you find integrating the two is giving them a challenge. And what we are doing as KKCO East Africa is to let our taxpayer or the taxpayers know that we have the approved. We are in collaboration with the approved integrators that are given out by KRA to integrate what you have, the existing billing system, and what eTIMS has to offer. So we are enhancing, or we are giving a seamless transition from what you are currently having and being compliant with the eTIMS.
Okay. Yeah. Now, when it comes to the process of onboarding, could you walk us through that?
I would be okay to take you through. So KRA, what they have given some quite number of solutions on how to onboard, basing on the nature of your transaction, and again whether you have a billing system in place. So we have 6 ways to onboard, but then as I've said, it will depend on what you have. There are those who do not have a billing system in place. You're just having a simple accounting software. And so there are 2 options you have to onboard. We have the simplest for the simple guys, you would call them the mama mboga. we have the USSD option, the *222# hash. You just dial with your mobile phone.
Okay.
And you just follow the procedures that are there. They are just quite simple. We also have another alternative for eCitizen. You just log in and sign up from the eCitizen. There is a web ecitizen.kra.go. From there, you are able to sign with the eCitizen. Those are just simple for those persons who do not have a billing system. We also have an online eTIMS. You just need to log in online, and it does not need you to have to own a machine or laptop or something. You can just walk into a cyber, and you just get into your portal. We also have two other options. One is called the Online Sales Control Unit and the Virtual Sales Control Unit. These two options are more based for favorable for organization or businesses that have huge transactions.
Okay.
And they have a billing system in place. And I would give an example for a supermarket. They have several pay points and various transactions. So for such business, they will go for such option. The sales control unit and the virtual control unit. And the online sales control unit, as it states, the online, you must be connected to the internet for you to be able to transmit your transactions. The virtual one, you could be connected to the internet, and sometimes you might face some downtime with the network. And once you resume, it will also be in a position to transmit the transactions. So for virtual is more considered to taxpayers who have issues with connectivity. Because as you choose for online, you have to be connected throughout.
Okay.
And it is good for you, for a taxpayer to be for them to be able to know which system suits their suits their needs. It's good to get in touch with your tax advisors to be able to have you and take you through together with the approved integrators that have been appointed by KRA. So with that, you'll be able to understand which particular option needs will meet your needs. Yes.
What I'm learning, even as we continue with our conversations, a lot of these things, there are so many changes that are coming up. And, with every change, even whether it's a business owner, or it's just, you work, really, all these changes, keeping abreast with them can be a bit challenging. So I think just working with the experts to walk you through what do these things mean and what do they mean for my type of business, like what product would be best suited for me. I think I am coming to appreciate why it's really important to work, with the expert. Yes.
You're very right, because you see there are 6 options that then prescribed. As a taxpayer, you need the expert to tell you which option. If you go for the virtual, where you need internet and you are in some remote place, again, it will become a challenge for you to transmit. So you need the expert to come in and tell you, then how do you onboard, and then which system do you now use, being a software. Then you also require the expert to tell you when do you go for the USSD code, the simplest of all, and how do you register to become to become a taxpayer. Again, that can use the eTIMS system. And so then what comes out is that with the various changes, tax has become very dynamic. We get a bill every year. It become an act. In it are a lot of measures that then the government proposes. Amending this, replacing it with this one, bringing in another new system, another new act, a new requirement. As you all know, that eTIMS is completely new.
Yes.
We were now in the old ETL, machines where we had gadgets, the hardwares. Now we have gone to softwares. Again, you need the expert to come in and tell you what do you do.
Yeah.
How do you cancel an invoice, for example? If you had raised one on eTIMS, what happens?
Yes.
You need an expert to come in and tell you. If you are running a supermarket, as said, and people return goods, then what happens to your invoices that you had already issued? If you are running a school and you invoice and then students don't report, so what happens to that? Again, you need the expert to come in and help you, to integrate, to work with you.
Yes.
And again, to ensure that you are compliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the challenges I faced also when I was onboarding on eTIMS and I had to have the conversation with Virginia is I realized I didn't even know what where to place, in what category I'd place my business. Yeah. So, and that, of course, with the category that my business is supposed to be in, of course, that has very different treatments. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say it's good to get to understand your nature of transaction because the solutions comes based on what you are doing in terms of the principal activity, because there are those who offer services. We have a solution based for services only. There are those solutions that accommodate both services and goods. There is also a solution for that. So understanding your transaction and your nature of business is also a key determinant to choose the appropriate software to onboard. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So there are all these many parts, intricate parts moving.
They keep moving.
Yeah.
Someone who is in an educational facility, a university, requires a different solution.
Yes.
Within the eTIMS.
Yes.
You have 10,000, students. How do you invoice 10,000 items? So you have to get a solution which now comes in with a package, and then you'll be able to onboard and say, this is my nature of the business. It will then, for example, tells you need 10,000 times the fees as one invoice, and you transmit, not now keying in another 10,000 times. And so those are some of the areas that then expert requirement, expert knowledge is required to help you to ensure that you are compliant.
Yes.
And you get the right solution.
Yeah.
Sure.
One of the things I'm excited about, even with this episode, is after this episode, once we are done with this conversation, we are going to now practically show our viewers how to go about it.
Sure.
Yeah.
The other thing that we can say is then, having said who is required, and we have said it's all of us, we then need to give a caveat that what this law means is that if you are a business and you have made a sale, and I'll give an example, you have made sales of 1 million, but those sales they are an outcome of purchases. So you incurred purchases. You purchase goods that you later sold. So if that purchase was not, you didn't receive an eTIMS generated invoice for that purchase, then you cannot claim it. It's like the purchases, the invoices that you received are null and void. It's what we Kenya call hot air. It's like they didn't exist.
Oh yeah.
You should pay tax on your sales. It's this way. If I'm in the motor vehicle industry and I buy a vehicle worth 1 million, I sell it at 1.5 million. But the 1 million purchase transaction was not anchored on eTIMS. It then means I should pay tax on the 1.5 million. There are no expenses. It means that where there are, if you have no eTIMS, if the invoice is not on eTIMS, it does not exist. It does not exist.
Yeah.
If, for example, a supermarket purchased goods and there were no eTIMS, the sales will be assumed to be the gross sales. You tax them from that perspective. You will not require to claim any expenses that is not generated on eTIMS as a business.
Wow.
And that's why then where you are, whether you purchase from a Mamba Boga or the Liders or the small people, there is no solution. You have to get eTIMS. Otherwise, the way the law was anchored, it was premised on all transactions. It does not have exemptions for that particular item. And the few items that are exempted are within the interest, if you're within the commercial banks, or if you're dealing with export services. Yeah, but when you're dealing with goods that are being manufactured in Kenya, transactions that are happening within the country, outside of a bank transaction where the interest is considered, or a salary, because when you are in an organization and you are paying salaries and wages, those ones are already declared through iTax. There is a mechanism. So an employee does not require to invoice the employer on eTIMS. Yeah. However, those other transactions of purchases, you're paying electricity, you get that electricity bill, must have the eTIMS. You're paying water, you're purchasing items, all those purchases, goods and services, whether you get an audit service, a consultancy service, a training service, the trainers must give you eTIMS generated invoices. Again, if they don't do that, it means that the expense did not happen.
Yeah. And of course, like we said, it's within the business. So it's not just, we shouldn't also go hustling people for eTIMS invoices, and it's really within our own personal.
If it was for personal consumption, there is nowhere where that expense is being paid. It's basically your consumption. You're going to the house.
It
would not mean anything because you won't claim it against your income.
All right.
Maybe I would say there's a concern that maybe it was there before KRA came up with some clarification, because a taxpayer thought eTIMS was for the VAT registered persons. But having that confusion, KRA had to issue out a clarification that eTIMS is not for VAT registered persons, but it's a solution for transmitting the sales or your transaction to KRA. And so it required everyone who is in business, including those registered persons that do not have the VAT obligation, to onboard, because it is not for invoicing the VAT, but it's just for transmitting any transaction you're having.
I think anyway, if anything, it's going to also just make it easier for us to really just do our taxes. Now, Virginia, I'm wondering, how then can you tell, how will we be able to tell, or how can our viewers tell a fraudulent eTIMS invoice, what is not really eTIMS, an eTIMS compliant invoice?
This is a concern that has been going all through, how to check a valid and a genuine invoice. Once you generate or you get an invoice that is eTIMS compliant, there are two ways to check whether this eTIMS is valid or not. In that invoice, there is a QR scan, and by use of the QR scan reader, you are able to see. Once you scan the QR code, you're able to see whether the invoice was transmitted. And as we said, there are various options of solutions for onboarding. In case the invoice or transaction was transmitted using the virtual sales control unit or the online, and there was a time that there was no connectivity of the same. If you scan that invoice, you'll not be able to validate it because it was not transmitted to KRA. And what you'll be required is maybe to request the seller or the person you've traded with to validate that invoice for you to be able to confirm. Because once you scan the invoice, you're not able to see once you scan it, you're able to see all the details that has been captured, the PIN, the amount, the description. But if it was not transmitted, you'll get some errors. Yes. So that is one of the way to confirm that. Also, there is a CU number, reference number. A CU number. CU number. It's an invoice number of this eTIMS. You just log into KRA website. On the face of the KRA website, there is an option where you check a valid invoice using the CU number. And the same, it will populate all the details, the amounts, the what you've purchased.
Okay.
And by that, you'll be able to know that this is a valid and it has been transmitted. Yes.
Oh, awesome. I think that's also something maybe we can demonstrate and
Yes.
show.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can demonstrate that. And more important is also to say that this will also necessitate clever people who will come up with invoices that were not transmitted to KRA. And so they'll be there. In fact, they're already there. And so then to catch that, then a validator exists from a QR code, again, to ensure that once you run the QR code, it tells you, oh, this has gone. The other one will give you an error message that shows clearly this has not been transmitted to KRA. Because a valid one is where you transmitted it. You generated it through the system and transmitted it to KRA. Yeah.
Wow, okay. So that has been quite the conversation. I know we're going to get a lot of questions around eTIMS. We have promised our viewers, please watch until the end of our video. We're going to have just practically a quick run through of how to onboard and even just how do you tell a valid eTIMS invoice. All right?
Yes.
Now, to end, I started with a question. Now I want to know, would you rather give up your smartphone or your computer? We could start with Virginia. Smartphone or computer? Which one would you rather give up?
I would give up my computer.
Or your computer?
Yes.
Because
my smartphone, it holds all the needs that a computer can give. So I would forego the computer and retain my smartphone.
Okay.
Yes.
Joshua?
I would go the smartphone.
And stick to your computer.
Retain the computer. You know, the computer is now my lifeline. I bet I'd continue living.
You're thinking about your money.
It speaks to my money, my processes. I think my businesses, everything rotates around now the laptop.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. I hope you have enjoyed the conversation.
Sure.
And I hope the next time we invite you, you'll also just come by. So thank you so much to our viewers. I hope you have enjoyed this conversation. I hope it's a conversation that you have found value in. Please remember to share these conversations. Please interact with us. Ask us questions. Let us know what conversations do you want us to talk about. What kind of content would you want us to create? So till next time, please keep it Beyond Numbers by KKCO East Africa LLP. Take care.